right, all right.
Good, man. How you doing?
Dude, I'm excellent. It is it's good to see you.
Yeah, I missed you this year.
I know. I've been doing this project with Indian motorcycles all year and getting my ass kicked a little bit by it.
Nice. Well, I'm digging all of the everything I'm seeing online. It looks like you've really kind of not reinvested, but just ratcheted up a gear in the whole entrepreneur. This is my journey.
Trying.
Yeah.
Trying. It's a fun thing to learn.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like if I can apply the same rules that it took to getting good at throwing something as stupid as rocks in a field,
Right.
it works the same for learning anything. As long as I'm interested, I'll lock in pretty good.
Yeah. And there's a lot to learn in business. I'm 62, still figuring shit out,
Yeah.
But you where did I read it? I don't know. Oh, do you follow Alex Hormozi?
That name's really familiar. What is he
really
doing?
interesting? I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. Hormozi. But super smart, super interesting, and but I saw him do a little video today where he had some videos of him from like 10, 12 years ago, and he had these side by side, no mustache, like different hair, and but just you could see the fire and intensity, and he goes like, here, this is like a decade later, and I'm still doing this. And I can remember when I was 17 going, I want to teach self-defense. That's what I want to do, is I want to teach self-defense. And then when I was 20, getting asked by a venture capitalist what exactly I wanted to do. And I said, I want to make the world safer. And he was like, well, how are you going to do that? I said, well, I'm just going to do that. It's just funny. I do stuff every day, and really it's that reframe on discipline versus motivation. We can all get fired up, but if you don't do whatever it took you to get world class at throwing rocks, right, you can't skip it and go, it's like, hey, this diet's not working. I've been like I ate properly this morning. Why aren't I losing weight now? And that's,
it's I look at like the only thing that I've ever been confident enough to say I've been great at would be that. It's an easy measure. I was best in the world at it. I can fully say I was great at a thing at a moment.
Right.
And it took me from the time I was in middle school throwing until I was 28. So 12 to 28. So 16 years.
Right.
And so that's how long it takes me to get great at anything. So I may as well just say, next time you want to get good at something, be patient, because it's going to fucking take a while.
Well, and that's really the message for anyone listening to this deeply, because I get a lot of people in the martial art self-defense world who contact me and they go, hey man, I want to do what you want to do. Or sorry, they say, I want to do what you do. And I go, you're only looking at what I post on Instagram. Right. You don't have any idea what I really do, so people see the victory. They see, you're standing on the podium and you've won there, or you get, they see the success. They don't see the journey.
That's it. Most people don't ever see any of the journey, and, guys like yourself. And one of the reasons I've kind of rebranded my podcast to now being called Not Dead Yet. And it's about this, like taking that ownership of that time in front of you, right? Instead of ever being enough of what I did yesterday being the thing to be like, hang my shoes up and call it a day. Right. That idea that make decisions, take action, and own that rest of your life. And I think one of those things you teach, especially with self-defense or any of that, helps build confidence in people to be able to live their life in a better way. Yeah. And I would love for you to explain, I guess, to my audience who maybe doesn't know as much about you, what all it is you do and teach.
What do I do?
I know it's such a
You know,
shit question to ask someone who does what we do.
I should work on that elevator speech because, I've been
Good
in business
luck.
like 30 years and I'm like, I still don't know how to explain. It was funny because I answer it by who are you and what have you asked me that I think I can help with? Or what have you not asked me, but you're obliquely asking me and I'm kind of interpreting based on, right? So, like everyone should know how to fight. Everyone should know how to defend themselves. Any victim of violence who lived to tell the tale, if you said, would you have preferred to have some skills, pre-fight skills that would have helped you avert this violence that you experience? There's not a single person in the world that would go, no, the PTSD is fine. I like it. I like not being afraid, or I like being afraid to go for a walk or to go on a date or whatever the scenario is, because it could be a rape, it could be a home invasion, it could be a carjacking. The scope and depth of the violence will obviously leave an imprint on us. But what we do is way bigger than just self-defense, practical self-defense. For those people who don't know me, I'm 62, as I mentioned earlier, but I don't know what's going to get cut. So 62.
There's nothing getting cut.
Yeah. So I've been teaching since I'm 17, professionally since I'm 20. And it's always been the same focus. Like, will this work in the real world? And for a while, I was like anyone in reality-based self-defense training, this is a big mistake martial artists make. I apologize for generalizing, but they try to fit their widget into the real world. It's no Jiu-Jitsu will answer that. No Taekwondo will answer that. No Thai boxing will answer that. And I at a young age in the 80s, after one of my students got his ass kicked, realized, oh my God, the bad guy actually influences the complete scenario. And if we don't study,
you're thinking like ass kicked, not in a competition, like someone you were training.
No, like street, like a real
got his ass kicked.
Yeah, but as I was 20, he was 15. He was doing private lessons with me,
sure.
And a friend of the family's. I make the joke that I got hit. It hit me harder than he got hit because I'm so fucking passionate about this stuff that I was so upset. Like, what did I do wrong as a trainer, as a coach?
Right.
So it wasn't like, let's say you had a coach and you went to competition, you came in 4th or 3rd.
No.
And the coach goes, oh, like you go.
No, it's life or death.
Well, but it would be like if you came in 3rd, it's because 2 guys threw the rock further than you,
right?
Or picked up a heavier rock than you. It's measurable.
Sure.
Violence has so many elements to it, and I'll give you an example, like how to get out of a headlock. You can learn how to do it. There's like 5 or 6 like classic counters from karate, from jiu-jitsu, from judo, classic counters. But getting out of a headlock when you're wrestling with your buddy, in the den while you're watching a UFC fight, and he's giving you a noogie, and you're like, you motherfucker, and you're like, is different than getting out of a headlock in a real jiu-jitsu match, which is different than getting out of a headlock in a street fight, which is different in getting out of a headlock if somebody's trying to abduct you and throw you into a trunk of a car and they've grabbed you and they're, then there's multiple assailants and they're going, get him in the car. And you're like, oh my God, I'm getting kicked. All of these, the headlock doesn't change. The headlock's the constant, but the scenario changes.
That just due to the intention of.
But the risk changes, right? And so this is the area that people miss. And so this ties into the shirt I'm wearing, that what changes is the penalty if you don't counter the headlock. If you're in an abduction, getting dragged to a secondary crime scene where you're going to get maybe tortured and murdered, if you have that awareness of what's going on, that's 100% going to impact your cognitive brain's accessing of its complex motor skills.
Sure.
Athletes freak out. You look at every fighter who warms up and then they walk into the ring. And if they were fighting Tyson in their heyday, or some other champ, you see them in their
game plan,
changing room, doing all their pummeling and doing their technique, and then they're out there and they look like a completely different fighter.
Sure.
Because what's changed, I always tell people on game day, your skills can't and don't change other than through your adaptive courage, and that is mindset, and all of that ties back to my ability to manage fear, and not the physiology of fear, but the psychology of fear. And that's an important distinction for people. I'm still trying to answer, what do I do? We're stuck in
I think we'll flesh all that out, but I am interested more in the difference between the physiology of fear and the psychology of fear. Because one of the things I've been talking with people a lot about is just that, managing that fear of not doing well enough, or that fear of failure, that fear of falling, whatever it is that keeps people from taking action.
Right.
And so I would love to hear how you're using it.
Yeah. So two things before I jump into that. What started off as like a passion to teach self-defense became a holistic look at self-defense, which is, how do I not let the violence of my thoughts, I suck, I'm not going to be able to make it, I really thought I'd be in a different place in my life, I'll never find a wife or a husband, and there's a lot of people that have that self-talk, right? Fear has been weaponized in a big way through propaganda in the last couple of years, ridiculous levels.
It's our number one export.
Right? Exactly. So what started off as me trying to do wax on, wax off, that's a Karate Kid joke, trying to teach people how to defend themselves, realizing like traditional martial arts, it does not translate to typical, in this day and age, sudden violence, managing sudden violence. In the journey to figure that out, I stumbled across in the 80s. I was actually inspired. I was listening to an accidental interview with this guy named Howard Gardner, who was a social scientist. And he said that, his research, after studying thousands and thousands of blah, 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 he goes, he believed that 80% of our motivation is derived from our expectations. Now that quote, and I'll repeat it again, ties directly into what you're asking, Matt, of people not taking that chance or trying it once. It was hard, and they go, well, I guess that's not for me. Again, I call that like adaptive courage and resilience. But Gardner said 80% of our expectations are derived from 80% of our motivation is derived from our expectations. And I went back to my office. There was no whiteboards at the time. It was a blotter on my desk, and I wrote down 80-20 motivation expectation. And in about 10 minutes, I reverse engineered this flow chart, which you saw at my talk
right
2 years ago, called I renamed it the cycle of behavior, the neural circuitry of fear, and how do we make decisions under duress. That became probably the greatest serendipitous element of studying violence. I realized in the 80s that if you can't manage your fear, you're not going to manage to fight. Operative word there, to fight, because it doesn't guarantee victory, right? It's the old man in the arena.
Sure.
Well, you got to manifest the courage to step into the arena, whatever that is. Not someone else's arena. That's a whole other conversation. But your arena,
right? Like, yeah, whatever it is you want in that life.
Exactly. And so what emerged out of that was this idea of you can't be brave if you're not afraid. You need to understand fear. You need to look, and fear, I've been a lifelong athlete. No one, even to this day, no one ever says, hey, you need to change your relationship with fear. Let's start with, do you know what the physiology of fear feels like? Do you know what the psychology of fear sounds like? So the physiology of fear is, let's say you're getting ready for, if you can flash back to, one of your biggest events.
Sure.
Where, like, I'm sure you've been in events where you knew you were going to win. You showed up to something, was like a local thing, and like everyone is like 5 years behind you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And you still might have had some performance anxiety because you want to look good, you want to do good, you're building your brand, right?
Yeah, but there's no risk.
Right. But there's no risk.
Right.
And then you show up at another one and you go, if I'm not on my A game, if I don't really focus, that guy, everyone here could get on the podium. And that's the difference. So, but the physiology of fear and the psychology of fear is, the physiology is what you're feeling through your body. The psychology is the voice in your head. So, have you ever done any jiu-jitsu or wrestling, grappling? I'm sure.
Not enough to really say yes.
Okay. Well, let's say, and I use this example because a lot of people know jiu-jitsu, and people will know like who the Gracies are, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. So let's say you're in this open tournament, and you've signed up to compete, and you're sizing people up. That's what athletes do. Competitive athletes do. You don't go in there with blinders on. You're going, I wonder if I'm going to fight that guy. I could fucking take him, right? Like you're sizing people up, and you're looking around. You go, you know what? I think I could win today. And then just as we're getting closer to start calling the matches, Hoist Gracie walks in, and everyone's like, oh my God, Hoist Gracie. And he goes, this is an open tournament, right? He goes, yeah, anyone could sign up. Yeah. He says, I'd like to sign up. And Hoist Gracie is one of the greatest grapplers of all time, right? UFC champ. If you know who he is, immediately, without even fighting him, you went, I'm going to win this tournament to, okay, now I'm going to come in second because there's no way I could beat him. You tracking that?
Yeah.
Like that's a conversation you had.
Absolutely. I've had that whole discussion numerous times.
Okay. So that's the acronym we use when we're teaching our Know Fear program to people, is false expectations appearing real. I'm visualizing a future event that hasn't even happened, but it's debilitating or immobilizing or distracting or destroying me in the present.
Right.
That
approach I love so much. Really one of the in-depth things that I've been working with my mentorship group and just working on myself, right, is maintaining as much operation out of my intention and not listening to any of my expectations. Because most of the time, like you're saying about fear, my expectations in general are typically built around bullshit that I have no idea of what the weather will be that day, X, Y, and Z. There's too many factors to really set something weird there if I'm going to hold that line as success or failure. But if my intention is to continue down this path as far as I can and continue to solve the problems, then we're always winning. Back to, that guy you're talking about, right? Who's, my fucking life sucks. My wife doesn't like me. I don't get fucking laid. I'm fat now, blah, 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 blah. All these type of things, constantly living in this realm that he's not living up to that expectation. So there's that. I don't know if you're familiar with the book Gap and Gain.
No.
And so one of the things it talks about in there, mindset wise, as far as mindset wise and awareness of just living in a bit more gratitude, is always measure everything backwards.
Okay.
Don't worry about the gap between where we are now and what this made up myth of expectation of where we're supposed to be is, but always measure back at the progress that we've made.
Beautiful.
Hell, because no matter what it is, if I look back at what problems did I have 10 years ago that I was worried about, they're all fucking gone, and we made it. And so there's always progress.
Yeah.
And so, I love that message of that expectation really getting in the way physiologically, and as much as I go into it in the mentality, mindset wise.
Yeah, no, it's super subtle. And while you were talking, there's a graphic that I usually draw out on a whiteboard for, our students at a deeper level. And it's the capacity potential model. And most people live in there. So potential falls under that umbrella of expectation. It's something in the future. And the danger, so potential is an interesting word choice versus expectations. Because I can look at you and go, hey man, I want you to pick up this weight. Look at how strong you are. And am I, as your coach, or if you're the athlete going, I've got these expectations. Expectations if you fail, it hits you like your pride, your ego. You can have the same reaction if you're thinking about your potential, but potential has a much more instructive, if you dissect it, now you can go, well, wait a minute, my stamina, my endurance, my agility, my mobility, you can start looking at my athletic potential or my intellectual potential. It just inspires. The word is a different connotation.
Well, yeah, one of them is measured totally differently.
Yeah. Yeah. But I love the visual in the graph. As I tell people, capacity is what you can do right now. Potential is what you'd like to be able to do. Figure out what is the training, and it could be, let's say your lifestyle line. You go, sure. I remember this just popped in my head. Jessie, my wife, when she was just my girlfriend, she'd moved in with me and she was good with numbers. So she started helping out with the books.
Excellent.
Right. And
not one of your gifts either.
But you know what? It's funny. It's for Mr. Fear Management. I'm like, don't show me a spreadsheet.
No, fuck no, man. I don't understand any of it.
Like I fall asleep and I get all nervous. But in all seriousness, she was just like I could call her right now and go, hey, I need our Visa or Amex and like I'll say to her, hey, I want to buy this thing. I need our Amex, and then she'll go, you ready? And I'm like you're not going to open your purse, your wallet, and she just knows all this. She
just knows them. Yeah,
it's crazy. But anyways, the point being, talk about capacity, potential, and measurement. One day, I don't know what this is completely irrelevant. It showed my Alzheimer's kicking in here. I'm looking at our books one month, and I see this is back in, let's say, 1993, like $60,000. Yeah, comes in. And I call her in my office. I go, you said you were good at numbers. She goes, what? I said, what the fuck is this? She goes, what? That's there's no way we made $60,000 this month. And she's like, no, but I checked it twice. I go, fuck, I knew I shouldn't have tried. Like I'm freaking out. And then she turns out she's right. Like hats, t-shirts,
sure,
seminars, videos, it all added up. What's my point with this is, in my mind, I hadn't figured out what our capacity was and what our potential was, and started to look at how I was going to build the company. And it just surprised me, right, in a weird way immediately. And it's like anything else, and I'm not one of those guys that measures a lot of stuff. I don't measure my food. I don't measure my weights. I don't journal. I don't do that. Having said that, I know that, if you don't track it, you can't have a discussion about it.
No, it makes it a little tougher to look at things a little bit less emotional and be able to say, look, what is this honestly? And let's just look at the data and make decisions based on that.
Exactly.
And I try to apply that to as much of my life as I can with, was this thing I decided to do, did it yield a favorable response or an unfavorable one? And try to do more of the ones that equal favorable. That's really it.
Yeah.
With all the self-defense work, was there anything, where did that start with you? Was there ever an incident? Was there?
Yeah. So what's interesting is I grew up in the 60s watching all these like action shows, Manchurian Candidate, the original one with Frank Sinatra, the original Wild Wild West.
The original Tough Guys, Frank Sinatra.
Right? Black and white turning into color. But the 60s had like every crime show, TV show, Wild Wild West, Green Hornet, Batman and Robin. Like everything was fighting. Everything was Westerns. Everything was good guy, bad guy. And I was always riveted to the TV watching that. But I was also simultaneously afraid of everything as an athlete. And I was a good athlete, but I was afraid to compete.
What were you competing in at that point?
Wrestling, skiing, gymnastics, tennis.
Bit of everything.
I was all around. I wasn't the water boy or the kid that got picked last. I was always like, I want Tony on my team. because I always had the facade. I knew how to wear my fear. And I'm probably there's probably 97% of your audience just went, what did you just say? Because that's
right.
Most of us, I don't like to use the term imposter syndrome.
That's real though. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It tends to pop up differently.
Yeah. And I have some thoughts on it. I just don't like the connotation. I've been in places where I go, holy shit, I can't believe I'm here.
Sure.
But I've never felt like an imposter. I've been nervous. Like, did I prepare enough for this? I'll tell you something interesting. Okay. So I've got 12 trainers that teach all over the world for me. Europe, Australia, USA, I've got trainers all over. We've got, in the last couple of months, like tons of courses starting to kick off again. And we have one of my guys from the Netherlands who's been a martial artist for 30 years, has one of the biggest gyms in the Netherlands, teaches kickboxing, Wing Chun, spear system instructor under me, teaches our Be Your Own Bodyguard. He's been training with me probably on top of all of his other stuff, like 8-9 years. And he's a big, good athlete, right? Which is worse than a really good small athlete because he's fucking big.
He's big, right?
Like in the martial arts world, you got these myths like size doesn't matter. And I'm like, yeah, somebody with a small penis made that up. Like, well,
like there's some truth to that. And I get it. The trained is better than untrained, but because I've been fortunate enough to have terrifyingly large friends,
right?
Like fucking Hapthor, man. 6'10" and 464 pounds when he was doing his biggest at strongman.
Right.
I remember picking him up in my truck in Austin one day and just being like, fuck, there's nothing I could do here if he decides to, like, I'm safe right now because he's allowing me to be.
Right. I'm going to make love to you now, Matt.
Right. Be like, well, sure thing.
Please, just no kissing.
No, I mean, it's exactly, there's someone that size is why concealed carry exists.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing. So I make the joke, like, because we have all these like I don't want to say silly, but they're these silly, like, size doesn't matter. And I'm like, no, size absolutely matters. And so this guy, the whole point of the story is this guy, Arjan, who's my trainer out of the Netherlands. He's going to do a control and arrest course in the United Kingdom last week. And I call all my team before they take off, and the night before the course, how you feeling? You all set? You ready to go? And I just do a little pep talk, and I'll tell 2 quick stories. He says, I said, how you doing? He says, to be honest with you, because I want full transparency all the time. He says, I'm pretty nervous about this. I said, really? Why? And my guys, I like to remind people, and so this is all the No Fear program, that our situational awareness, which is, who we are in relationship to everything around us, right? My situational awareness is not just about self-defense. It's, what do you mean that guy was stealing from your company right under your nose? That's no situational awareness. What do you mean your wife or your husband was cheating on you? That's situational awareness.
Sure.
What do you mean you didn't realize you gained 40 pounds? That's situational awareness, right? So situational awareness is intrinsically connected to self-awareness, and self-awareness is what allows us to have critical thinking. If you lack self-awareness, your critical thinking skills are skewed, and therefore your situational awareness is actually compromised. So my team, they get this from me. We do like monthly calls, and so if I say to one of my guys, why are you nervous? They're not going to go, oh, just performance anxiety. They're going to give me a specific answer. His specific answer is, this is the first time I'm doing this course. I'm prepared, but all of these guys in the course they're operational, they're operators. They're all operational. I'm not. I'm a self-defense instructor,
sure,
from the Netherlands, and I just feel like what am I doing here? So he's like dipping his toe in the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Cool. But here's how I shut it down. I think you'll dig this for your group, and I know you're a deep thinker. I said to him, his name's Arjan, Arjan. I said, Arjan, I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to show up at class, and I want you to say to the group that all paid like $1,000 to come to this course to learn my spear system that you're teaching.
Right.
You're my ambassador. I said, I want you to start the class off by going, hey, before we start, I want to know who is the most experienced operator in the room. There's going to be one guy that puts his hand up. Somebody puts his hand up, you go, okay, could you come up here, please? Have him stand up there, go sit in his seat and say, teach the class. And don't say anything else.
Fuck.
I go, what's he going to do? We were doing a Zoom call. You should have seen his face, man. I said, what's he going to do? He said, he's going to be in the fear loop. He's going to like, I don't know anything about this. I mean, that's why I signed up. I want to learn this.
Right.
I said to you, I got goosebumps now reliving that. This is like a week ago. I said, you understand, so when I'm doing like one-on-one coaching or business coaching about imposter syndrome, I'll use examples like this because we make this assumption that we have to be able to do what everyone else in the class can do. You got to do what you're doing. You're the coach, you're the mentor, you're the trainer. And I mean, it just totally reframed him, right? And it was powerful because he realized he had prepared for the class.
Right.
He had passion bordering on obsession for the material. And he was there. We have a mission. We are going to make good people safer sooner by teaching them realistic, relevant personal safety skills.
Right. And that's the intention of it, right? Is to make good people safer sooner.
Yeah. And you know, it was an outstanding course and I got amazing feedback and he was, I mean, it was that reframe, but it's creating, you know, part of it, if you've got a team or in your community, creating the safety to communicate, but that safety, and it's not about, oh, like it's okay to be vulnerable and vulnerability is your superpower. I'm going to talk about all of that because that can get goofy, but it's this idea that, and it really ties back to my shirt, right? It's not no fear, it's KNOW fear. And it's like me being able to say to you, here's the other thing I was going to tell you. 2 weeks to flatten the curve turned into 2 months, turned into 2 years. My business was all in person.
Right.
All of our training, all of our gear sales. So I've got a multi-million-dollar consulting company, training company. And within the first 3 months of the pandemic, we had 35 classes canceled, close to $500,000 in revenue. And I'm a boutique company.
Sure. Yeah.
But just pivot, Tony Blauer. Well, guess what? Who are my clients? Who are 90% of my clients? Are law enforcement, military. Was law enforcement, military doing any training? No, they were not allowed to train. And then we went into the defund the police era.
What a crazy, crazy thing.
Yeah. Anyways, the point of that, dude, is this. The point of that is I was sitting in my office going, just like running numbers in my head going, okay, that's class 30 canceled. That's class 31 canceled. That's class 32 canceled.
There's fucking
nothing. I looked around my home, my decades in business, building to whatever station in life I'm at. And I said, oh my God, I'm going to lose everything if this goes on. And it was like someone stuck a fucking vacuum in my ass and was sucking out my insides. I got just terrified for about 24 hours, dude. Said to myself jokingly, I wish I knew somebody who specialized in fear management because I am
fuck, I bet, man.
I am scared right now. And that's the thing that is that you can't solve a problem if you're the problem. You won't know if you're the problem if you don't have self-awareness. If you don't know how to manage fear, you can't have accurate self-awareness. It's everyone else's fault. And so I gave myself 24 hours to commiserate and whine. And the next day, called the team together and I said, hey, we got to do some shit really fast. We did some amazing pivots, but one of them was setting up online training in here in my garage. We called it the garage gym. Yeah. And there's lots of people who want to train with me who can't afford to. There's lots of people who want to train with me who live way too far, so geography prevents them. And I set this up. I had 100 people sign up right away, which was enough to pay my mortgage, pay food. And And I remember the first class I was going to teach, I turned to my wife. Now, my self-defense system is called SPEAR, Spontaneous Protection Enabling Accelerated Response. It's all about the neurobiology of fear and survival. And how do we make biology work for us? So now we don't have to worry about which gender we are. There are only two, I said. Did I get canceled? Am I getting blipped there? It didn't matter about experience. So I had 100 people, but I said to my wife, the morning we're about to start, I'm like walking around the house and I noticed I've got like anxiety. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm breathing heavy. And I turn to my wife, I go, I cannot believe how nervous I am. And she goes, oh my God, like, how could you be nervous? I'm 60 years old. I've been teaching for 40 years.
Right.
I'm the best spear instructor in the world. Like there's my system, right?
And these people have opted in for you.
Right. They're paying me. It's online, so I don't even have to touch anybody. Right. But this is what I mean by self-awareness. She says, what the hell would you be nervous about? And I looked at her. I said, there's two things going on. I started this company teaching in my garage, and I'm going to save this company teaching in my garage.
Yeah, man.
And it was that heavy.
Yeah.
And it was really emotional just to make that, holy shit, here I am full circle. I started in a garage and I'm going to save it in the garage. And I said, for me to save it, this has to fucking work. And that's what I'm nervous about. I don't know that it's going to work. That's not the expectation, the potential.
When's the last time that you had something that felt that heavy?
Nothing. I got friggin'
yeah, goose. Man. That's a fucking heavy, fucking ride or die moment.
You've got the spiritual side of losing everything. You've got the security side of, hey kids, guess what? You've never had spam in your life, but
guess we're gonna get really used to it.
I can't afford bread right now, but we're just gonna eat the spam out of the can. And then the materialistic side. You can build that back, but it's obnoxious, but it's a real thing.
It's fucking real. There's no doubt. Look, whenever I went through my divorce and I moved and I left a house that I had, we had custom built that I had very was into.
Yeah.
I remember being like, fuck, I have to go backward. And
living in an apartment.
What a shitty thing to look at as backward.
Yeah.
When it's just, look, I don't know what the future's going to bring to me, especially if I look back 10 years ago. Clearly, whatever expectations I had were way the fuck off. So I'll stop predicting the future going forward. And again, back to, your intention with that business is still doing that. It's still helping people. It's still teaching them. And you've figured out a way to pivot that message in the current time. Look, someone was going to figure it out, and it may as well be you.
And it was a choiceless choice, just like managing violence and managing fear. It was interesting to apply my life's work on myself and have it work out. I don't feel like and maybe I did, you asked me a really important question about the difference between the psychology of fear and physiology of fear. And like the simple kind of Reader's Digest version is the physiology is, you're waiting to start your fight and your heart's pounding and your adrenaline's going, and that's your physiology. And if you don't, and this is a mistake all my coaches made, because I would think as a 15-year-old kid about to, let's say, do a downhill race, I'd be thinking, fuck, I want to projectile vomit right now. I need to piss again. I'm so nervous. And I'm like, and you heard me tell the story at the Sornex event, where I was like, if I'm so good, why am I so scared? But I didn't verbalize that. I only thought that. So if I'm looking at you and I'm nervous to arm wrestle you, to sumo wrestle you, to box you, to whatever it is, my physiology is going and is doing that. But if I don't understand the physiological changes that my body goes through at a non-conscious level, it just triggers because you're near adventure or danger or risk. that can create the false expectations appearing real. So that actually amplifies the psychology of fear. So the psychology of fear is when you're, in our case, is when your mind is creating a horror movie that it's cast you as the star in.
Right.
I'm going to screw this up.
Gonna screw this up, and everyone's going to fall. Right. Everything's going to fall apart.
Or like even just walking up, like you're about to do a speech and you go, okay, don't fuck this up, man. Like, it's just negative. It's just that negative, but not catching it. That's the self-awareness piece. How do I catch myself and redirect? And so that's the biggest thing, because the physiology is going to be there or not. Right? You can stress inoculate. Let's say you went back to throwing rocks.
Sure.
And I don't know if there's different divisions, and you just did it for the next 20 years. There might be a point where you're actually like on the phone, smoking a cigar, and someone goes, "Matt, you're up." And you go, "Hey, I gotta go." Like,
yeah, of course.
You're just so chill about it.
Yeah, I knew guys that were definitely out there competing that were that way.
Yeah. And without being a contrarian and nitpicking, maybe they weren't seeking the PR. They just loved the
community.
Yeah, the community and all that.
Right. Like, it all depends on what you're looking for.
Right. So you can chill. But I like Maurice Smith, an old buddy of mine. Maurice Smith was a world-class Thai boxer. I think he was a World Kickboxing Association heavyweight champ. He also won a UFC.
Okay.
And I love, I interview any victim of violence I can to help, vet the intuitions I have when I'm trying to help people. And but also, like, if I'm with, I know a lot of fighters, and I'll talk to them about their preparation, their mindset. And so I asked Maurice, I said, "Hey, dude, I want to talk to you about your pre-fight rituals and fear, and how you manage fear before a fight." And I asked him this question like after he had been in the game for 20 years. And he was like, well, his whole thing was he had Beats headphone, you remember the old Beats headphones, right? Beats headphone, lying on a massage table, arms crossed, just closing his eyes, just chilling before the fight, listening to, his favorite playlist. Now, I've been in boxing changing rooms, UFC, MMA changing rooms. If you're a Conor McGregor level, you got the room by yourself, right? Right. Otherwise, there's like 4 or 5 or 6.
Oh, yeah. Everyone only sees the glamorous part of those fight sports.
Right. But you would see like somebody in the room, and he's like doing the sewing machine leg. He's sitting there like this. There's another guy walking around the room, punching his face. There's another guy standing in front of a locker bank, banging his head. Like, everyone has a nervous switch going on. And imagine Maurice is there, eyes closed, moving his head, listening to Barry White. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah. So he tells me this. I said, "Hey, I said to him, do you have fear before your fights? And what do you do with it?" He says, "Well, let me ask you a question." And I said, "Okay, go ahead." He goes, "Do you have a job?" I said, "Yeah, I do." He said, "Are you afraid to go to work?" Right. I said, "No, I'm not." He said, "Me either." Right. And it was like a cool line in a movie. It was like, Last Boy Scout 2, Part 2. That'd be a cool line, in a movie. But if I said to you, Matt, before a competition, Maurice Smith is a world champion. He listens to this music. He lies on a massage table and just chills out and goes into a parasympathetic state and just goes zen and gets in this flow state and then goes. Well, if you're listening to Metallica and you need to go and smack yourself, Maurice's ritual is going to fuck you up.
Sure. Especially if you're paying attention to someone else's ritual.
Well, and this is yeah, but this is the whole thing that in the coaching world, we need to, as athletes and coaches, almost customize somebody's progression.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why athletes choose to work with, Yeah, anyone, right? Whether that's coaches or mentors or anything like that, it's someone to help them guide them on their path, not to put them on the path that I think's best.
Well, the challenge though is so many coaches aren't coaches; they're trainers.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's always as a coach, one of those things, and you know, coach, leader, whatever it's going to be. I always feel that it's my job to master communication, because if I can't express to you what I want done in a way that you grasp it with the gravity that I have, then we're not going to be able to ever get to the same point.
100%.
So, you know, and so, man, with employees or people, some people need a hug and some people need the stick.
Right.
You know, and that's the job of the coach, to figure out which one gets us where we want to go.
Yeah. You ever watch Entourage, the old series?
Back in the day, I'm relatively familiar with it.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking about, you know, like Ari Gold's character.
Right.
Like how he talked to everybody, which was hysterical. But
you know, you're talking about that fear response, you know, that immediate panic that sets in and creates that fear loop. Yeah, I managed mine years ago with being able to compete. You know, it just comes with the territory of doing it a lot. And I believe that there's something to exposure.
Sure.
You know, getting a way to find that response in a non-dangerous way so that I can go like, oh shit, there it is. I know what to do with it. I know it's going to go away, build some confidence in it. Recently I've been doing a lot with like cold exposure. I really like the benefits of using the cold tub, helps the rest of my body feel a little bit better, as well as clarity or anything else. But I think there's something to like choosing something every day that, man, it creates that that panic of get the fuck out of here.
Right.
That I have to decide we're fine, sit through and get your shit together.
Right.
You know, even if that's a 1%, it's still some repetition to managing fear. What do you think about just, you know, exposure with some of this stuff? I know that what you're talking about are, you know, violent protections, but training for that versus MMA seem very different.
Yeah. So what's really, really interesting, it's a great question. It's a deep question. And, and there's huge value to that. I hate the cold. And so, you know, I've gone into cold water, the ocean with some friends of mine who ice baths. Hey, we're going to go jump in the ocean today. And I'm like, isn't it like 42 degrees? Yeah, you're going to love it. Right.
You're going to love it.
And I get it. I had, you know, it's just interesting. You know, I had that neck injury that affected my trigeminal nerve. And so my vagus nerve and my neck, I had an injury like 4 years ago, but I've had neck problems from martial arts since the 80s. But when my nervous system goes, like things tighten up, I just don't, because I'm fascinated with all the research around the cold exposure. And ironically, I'm afraid to do it, but for very, very good reasons. I don't want to make, you know, I don't want to freak out my vagus nerve any more than it does.
For sure.
But having said that, and this is somewhat provocative, what I'm about to say. So I don't like heights, and I've jumped out of an airplane twice.
Sure.
I don't like when it's Christmas time and my daughter says, when my kids say, Dad, can you put the star up on the Christmas tree?
That's the level of heights we're dealing with.
I'll hold the ladder for you. You do it. Come on, Dad. And I'm up there going, fuck, I hate this. And I do it. But I've also jumped out of an airplane at 12,500 feet. That's fear management.
Right.
So exposure, the exposure you're doing, I think is very beneficial. All the physiology and all the science aside from
sure, yeah. Other than cold tub talk, I mean, this would be something more anecdotal.
Yeah. So I believe that it creates it will enhance adaptive courage when it's a slow burn, meaning you can go, Okay, I'm going to put the ice in the hot tub in the water, and then.
Oh, see, the advantage of having I have one that's always just ready.
Right, and I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah, sure. I see what you're saying.
You know it's ready. You can't talk yourself out of it. No. You can't talk yourself out. But you can also go, well, I got a really important email to do. I don't need to do this. Versus, like, someone about to hit you with a machete, and you're going, I got an important email to do.
I think it would be different if, say, someone chose to wake me up with the cold tub.
Well, if all of a sudden, like masked men were breaking into houses and forcing people in the hot tubs.
Right. I'm pretty sad.
Or hot tubs into cold tubs. You'd be one of the survivors.
That'd be all right.
I'm not clear. Let me gather my thoughts. Somebody who can commit to the cold exposure or the contrast therapies and do that and go, wow, going from the fucking sauna to the cold tub, back to the sauna to the cold tub, holy shit. And knowing you're going to do that, I believe that person is better prepared for the roller coaster of life. In other words, they're working on the emotional, psychological resiliency of controlling your state through controlling your mind. This is an interesting talk that I had with Kelly Starrett back in the day and Brian McKenzie back in the day, where
both of those are okay guys, I suppose.
Yeah, but I'm friends with those guys for a long time. Where I'd say, like, the missing link in a lot of this stuff is actually that neural circuitry of fear flow chart that I showed you 2 years ago.
Right.
Because the mind navigates the body. How you think affects how you feel. How you feel affects how you think. Both of them influence what you do. So you get into the cold tub and your brain starts to go, I can't do this. I can't do this. I mean, and I'm sure you've been around people you've given.
Yeah, myself.
It's still and not and you go, trust me, look at me, take a deep breath. You're going to be fine. Like, you just need to get them to believe a little bit. So I
think it's also getting someone to understand the difference in uncomfortable and danger. Like, there's no fucking danger in the cold tub.
Right. Unless they think it. That's the mindset thing. They
believe there is. They're reacting.
I've had athletes call me for like a one-on-one before they, stuff. So I had this one athlete call me and she said, so I'm a competitive athlete for 10 years. If an event's on Saturday, Wednesday night, the fear starts. I don't sleep well Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I don't eat well. And obviously, even though I'm performing at a high level, I can only imagine if I was sleeping and eating properly, I would perform better. But this is just, I go, well, tell me more. And it's like, well, how bad's the fear? And she says to me, it's so bad sometimes, I think I'm going to die. I'm so scared. And I go, so, and you've had this for like 10 years? She goes, yes. I said, just, and I pretended I was making notes. I grabbed a pen. I said, I said, okay, I just want to know, in the last 10 years, how many times have you died from the fear? And she laughs, like we're on a Zoom call, and she laughs. And I said to her, here's what I want you to do tonight, because it's going to happen tonight, right? It's Wednesday night. She goes, yeah. So you realize that you're also manifesting it by going, okay, it's Wednesday.
Yeah, of course.
And you just have performance anxiety because you really want to do well, right? You'd like to win because you're an athlete. Nobody enters a competition going, man, I hope I get qualified or DNF or something. Like, you want to win. And I said to her, here's what I want you to do tonight. I said, if you change your relationship with fear, you can change your mind. If you change your mind, you can change your life. It's that simple. And I said, here's what you're going to do tonight. When it starts to happen, I said, do you like any old classic movies? She's like, yeah, of course. I said, pick a couple. You have any old books that are fun to reread every now and then? She says, I can find. I said, get some books ready and get some movies ready. And when the fear starts to creep in, I want you to actually turn to it in an imaginary way and say, come here, you little fucker. I've been waiting for you. And I said, actually say that. Come here, you little fucker. I've been waiting for you. And go, guess what we're doing tonight? We're going to watch Casablanca, or we're going to watch, On the Waterfront. So some classic black and white movie, or read a book. And I said, call me tomorrow. Let me know what happened. She calls me in the morning. She goes, oh, like, I don't even remember falling asleep. Like her whole, and
Yeah.
all it was like just a shift of this fear is not going to kill me. And I'm going to change my relationship. So one of the metaphors that I tell people, and it might seem really goofy, but it's just, again, you can't do it without self-awareness. You got to go,
right.
Holy shit, why am I so nervous? Oh, I know why I'm nervous, because I need this Zoom call to work, or I'm not going to be able to feed my kids. Right. There's a lot riding on this. It's okay to be nervous. Now I've cleared the psychology of fear. I've connected to my why, which was the intention. And now I've cleared the psychology of fear, and now I got to just deal with the physiology of fear.
Even in a situation like that, right, where people get that high anxiety about job interview, the Zoom call, or any of that going well, when I talk to people, it's funny that no one ever thinks it's an option to say, you can say, hey, sorry, I'm just really nervous and excited about this.
Right.
You're allowed to fucking say that. Like,
I'm glad you said that, because I tell people that all the time.
I do too.
Like, they're stunned.
Yeah. Why not? Why not own it?
Yeah.
Instead of pretending it's not there and then getting in that weird spot of no one else ever feels this. Everyone does.
Right.
All the time. And I love what you said about that, talking to your client about like that turning and facing fear.
Right.
Man, that's a thing recently that I've looked at, and I look at it a little bit more. I guess I use anxiety, but it's another synonym, for fear of this thing. And so if there's something now that pops up that scares me and I get nervous about it, I absolutely like, all right, well, there's the direction. Like, we've been wondering what's the next thing. Like, we have to go toward that,
right?
Whatever that thing is. Of like, one recently I've added to the physical list of shit I'm interested in is I'm a good swimmer. Never have had any issues. I'm really weirded out swimming in open water. Mm-hmm. Weirds me out. I have had 0 negative experiences in my lifetime to justify any of that.
Right.
So I'm curious about if I could do certification with scuba diving and do some more experience, could I eliminate it through exposure and experience?
Yeah. I mean, it becomes like in theory, right? Like, all you can do is prepare. There's
I can solve more problems that come up.
Yeah. You listen, you prepare, and it's an interesting thing. There's I forget the guy's name now. It drives me crazy because I just spoke about him 2 days ago on another call, and I got to look it up. He's one of the world's top base, base jumper.
Okay.
Suit guy. And he's from Belgium. He speaks with a French accent, and he was on, I think it was maybe, I think it might've been like do you listen to Stephen Kotler's stuff, the flow research?
I'm familiar with him. I don't listen to much of it.
Okay. I think it was one of those things, but it was really interesting. So he's like a Red Bull sponsored athlete, world record, wingsuit guy. And I don't know what brought me to this. Maybe there was fear in the title or something. And I was like, so I'm always curious. But he's got a film crew. They're doing a documentary on him. And he's going to do this famous jump in Europe somewhere. And they've got other jumpers, right? Everyone's got cameras on, and they're setting up. And what's the budget on a documentary on like,
a lot.
Is it, it's not a Hollywood thing, but maybe what is it, $100,000 a day or whatever it is? I mean,
it's expensive,
and it's Red Bull. So they're not, it's not like you and I, we got a 16 millimeter film and I'm kidding. He gets to the top and he's explaining this in an interview, and he's sitting there and he says, I called off the jump. And they said, why? He says, I don't feel like it today. And they said, dude, like, we're all here. We got the cameras here. We got the helicopters here. We got the plane here. We got he says, no, I'm not jumping. He just stood his ground. There's in our holistic self-defense program, I alluded to it earlier, we have something called the 3 I's: instincts, intuition, intelligence. Most of us don't know how to incorporate intuition into our decision making. So here's this guy. Instincts are hardwired. Intuition is knowing something without having the evidence, the facts.
Sure.
Right? But most of us don't have the courage or confidence to trust our intuition. I'll prove that now. Have you ever been fucked over in business?
Yeah.
Okay. Screwed over in a relationship?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Betrayed by a friend?
Of course.
Of course. So, and everybody, yes, yes, yes. I go, of all of those events that have happened, how many times would you say regularly or never? How many times after the dust settled, when you realized what had happened, did you go, I fucking knew that was going to happen? I always knew there was, right?
Of course. That's always the thing of like, man, I knew that there was something there.
Or something there. So this is the whole thing. Is like, you remember the movie Minority Report?
Yeah. So they, basically arrest you before the crime happens.
Yeah. Why am I under arrest? Well, in a year from now, you're going to commit this crime. But no, I didn't even think about it. No, it's pre-fight. We got you. Think about the accuracy of betrayals and screw ups and backstabbing against the statistical data of, you know what? I knew that guy was going to fuck me. I knew there was something wrong with that person. And I've said, and I tell people, like, imagine if when we had that first intuition, said, hey, sorry, I can't do business with you. Why? Well, in a year from now, you're going to fuck me.
Yeah, but do you think with that too? Like, I do think that's also, I think that's also kind of a blade to sharpen, right? That intuition, because I think a lot of people operate out of such negative and scarcity that they feel a little bit of that toward everyone. And so of course that would give a confirmation bias of like when they did get fucked over, which is only X%.
Yeah, great observation. And because we don't understand the psychology of fear, we just know that we don't like the feeling of fear, and we don't like confrontations, and we don't like to even so you got your confirmation bias, but you also and we're all, especially entrepreneurs and especially good humans like you and I and everyone listening to this, of course, is we're romantics. We want life to work out. We want to be fucking happy. And so when you're a romantic in life, even if you got the scarcity and nervousness, that adds another dynamic in there of, yeah, maybe I'm reading this wrong. Maybe I'm embellishing this. Maybe that's just me being paranoid, right? And
I don't know how woo-woo you get with shit in your life, Tony, but you've been on the West Coast long enough. I'm sure you're familiar with all the weirdness. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I definitely don't believe I'm one to think that there's people with psychic powers, like in the traditional sense.
Right.
However, I know that there's instinct. And I know that there's that feeling. I know that hair that raises on the back of my neck. And I would have to imagine that if that's a feeling, there's a spectrum of how people interpret that feeling, some which would have to be very, very strong. And then there has to be people who just, it doesn't register.
Right.
And so perhaps, that strong end of it, maybe it's something you can sharpen. Maybe I can't ever be psychic.
And you can just, so like one of the things we talk about is you can practice developing your intuition. You can practice courage. It's like a muscle, right? So if you have an intuition about something, what I tell people to do is you need to put it under a microscope and analyze it. Like if you can, like if it's not something that's happening dynamically, you go, okay, there's something off about this house that I was going to buy. So do I rush into it? I was just on a podcast last week where there was a guy who actually trained with me. He said, I wish I had studied your three eyes a bit more, your instincts, intuition, intelligence. He said, we bought this dishwasher and it came with like an installation option, and as a third party installer, doorbell rings, knocks on the door. I look outside and it's a guy who doesn't look like he's an installer and looks like he doesn't want to do this job, but he's the guy. Sure. Yeah, I'm here to do. Yep. He said everything about him was wrong, but he was the guy. And he said, I went so far as to text my wife going, hey, what's the company? Just like, and she said, yeah, that's him. He said, but everything was like, he ends up telling the guy to come in. The guy fucks up, floods their house, screws up, floods the kitchen, causes whatever damage. And I said, imagine if you trusted your intuition there. Right. And so, but people don't want that confrontation. They don't want, they just want to fix it. Right. So, you know, so going back to what spawned all of this is like, hey, I'm a good swimmer. I got this apprehension about swimming in open water. So it's funny because I use this swimming analogy. I go, what's the difference between doing the dog paddle in a pool, the dog paddle in a lake in Scotland, or the dog paddle in the ocean off the coast of Bermuda? And, you know, if you go Scotland, Loch Ness Monster swims in fucking lake, right? So I got the dog paddle in a pool. I can see the bottom. I can see the shallow end. I can see the deep end. I can see it's blue. I can see there's nothing in there. There's not even a toy in there. The dark water, I can go, it's kind of gross. I wonder if there's seaweed or fucking leeches. And then as I'm walking into the water, we're up there partying in Scotland, Matt. We just had a couple of beers and we're going, hey, let's fucking skinny dip. And I go,
is this in Loch Ness?
This is, yeah, of course, but we don't know it yet.
Okay.
Right? We're just there. And I go, hey, what's that sign say? Are we allowed to swim here? And it says, beware of Loch Ness Monster, right? Yeah. You know, like we may go in because we're idiots, but we're scared now. And now our breathing has changed. Our thinking has changed. Our muscles are going to atrophy more quickly because even though our skill set and kinetic chain, range of motion, all of that shit is still there. Instead of us doing the dog paddle like this, going, yes, I'm in the pool. Now I'm going, yeah, let's get the fuck out. Let's
get the fuck out of here.
And then I go, well, let's go swimming in the off the coast of Bermuda. And you go like where the Bermuda Triangle is, like where planes and boats and shark and jellyfish.
I really thought I was going to have to deal with that more as an adult. There was something I heard a lot more about growing up that we've seemed to have figured it out.
Right, like other things, but anyways, do you see where I'm very subtle on how this ties into the open water? Because
there's so much unknown.
Undertow is real.
Yeah. Also being like, and so like I'm talking about, for one, to catch up, I'm glad to know another guy who has skinny dipped in fucking Loch Ness. I did that back in 2016. So very, very happy to know someone else. And then the deep water, like, so there's this lake that we were camping near in Idaho, Lake Pend Oreille. It's a good sized lake, mountain lake, but it's fucking 2,000 feet deep. Like that, way too much water.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy to me. And so, yeah, like that response of being in the water is like, I'd like to be out of the water as quick as possible.
And it's weird because all it is, if you don't have the self-awareness, your brain it's drowning you with these visuals of what's underneath. And that's that power of that self-awareness because.
But I do know this. If I force myself just to sit in it, it'll go away.
Like the ice bath.
Yep.
But what you're training there, and this is what I said earlier, is the mind navigates the body. How you feel and how you think are that's your yin and yang. How you think affects how you feel affects how you think. Both influence what you do and how you move. And so, you know, I go track and field, boxing, martial arts, MMA, throwing stones. If you are the tactical athlete and you know what to do, what changes on game day is just your mindset. And your ability to manage fear is going to be directly connected to how you perform. And then what do you take away from the performance and what do you go back and work on? But you got to clear the fear first.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that, man, that fear comes in a lot of sizes. You know, that can be fear in the morning of getting out of bed versus, you know, actual fear of financial failure or any of that. They're both still a thing you've got to sort through.
It's 100%. Like sometimes I get asked, I get asked many times, what's it like to have no fear? And no fear, because people think as a fear management expert, right, I've somehow, you know, I'm immune to fear.
No, that's not managing. That's fear, like removal.
Yeah, but like it doesn't exist. And I tell people, like, if you know someone who's actually not afraid in their life, there's something wrong with them, or they're lying, right? There's something, we're all afraid of something. But in the real world, like I get up and I move every day, but because of some of my injuries and stuff like that, I have because of the nerve compression and stuff like that, I got to be careful getting out of bed. I gotta when I get out of bed, I I go through this checklist and I go, okay, let's get up and see how it goes. Because I've gotten up and had both my hamstrings just lock up, right, from the nerve, bilateral nerve. And it feels like a school of piranha just fucking hits me, and I'm like, it's crazy. You got to see when that happens. If I'm going downstairs, it's not pretty, and it's fucking scary, man.
Yeah.
But as a lifelong athlete, I live with the fear of, well, like, is this getting better? Is this getting worse? Monitoring that at all times.
Always.
And then, so yeah, like I've got 3 kids. They're making life decisions on stuff, and I'm going, yeah, man, I would not be doing that now, but they're not going to listen.
Nope.
And so as a parent, so like the message there is this: it's like life is a roller coaster, and you got to embrace that. And nobody gets up in the morning and says, the last couple of days have been really good. I hope something catastrophic happens today so I can practice my resiliency. Yeah. Right. So
it's just coming.
Yeah. So, but it's really just about, I mean, you gave a bunch of great examples a second ago, but it could be, your bank manager, your partner, someone in sales, a client that you thought you're going to do a big deal with, and then the guy, decides to leave the company, and there's a new person who doesn't have any relationship with you, and suddenly this big program that you're like just fucking changes, like, and all of that inspires fear. And here's the thing: is when you're in the fear loop, you're wasting time. This is a pretty heavy concept. Effective fear management actually connects to time management, and time is the only resource you cannot get back. When we are in a state of fear, so fear creates, so fear spike creates doubt. Doubt always creates hesitation. The first two you can't ever avoid. You open your phone and there's a message, call me immediately, we have a problem. There's no way, if that's somebody significant in your life, there's no way you're not going to hold your breath and go, fuck, right? And then, so fear creates doubt, doubt creates hesitation. Unchecked, that hesitation becomes fixation. Unchecked, and what I mean by unchecked, it's not resolved. You're not fucking working on
You're not taking action.
Yeah. Unchecked, it becomes, doubt becomes hesitation, hesitation becomes fixation, fixation becomes non-clinical and or clinical anxiety. But there's that progression. You don't go from a fear spike to anxiety. You don't, and it's unconscious. You don't realize that you've been sitting and stewing and
building momentum.
Yeah. And so, it's really about monitoring those states of fear. And I like to use like a metaphor. If your physique, your body is a car and your mind is your nav system, the fuel to go somewhere new, let's say outside your comfort zone, is always going to be fear. You want to grow your business. You want to, find the perfect mate. You want to self-actualize. Okay, I'm going to go, sit in darkness for 10 minutes,
sure.
or 10 hours, whatever you're doing to just become, and it's scary. Make fear your fuel.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that a lot. I know that for me, like I talked about, right, that fear or anxiety is typically what I want to now point the compass at.
Right.
Be like, oh, okay, let's go explore that. Why are we scared of it? And that awareness too, to look deeper into why I'm actually scared of it or interested in it. Like, what's the base thing there that I'm looking for?
And the only caveat, and you said it earlier, is like, as long in brackets, as long as it's not dangerous.
Right.
So you can
explore. You understand the danger.
Yeah.
Something you talked about with managing fear. Now, how with your course do you go about sorting that out?
Sorting which part out?
Sorry, the fear response and getting to people from, breaking that cycle.
From the self-defense side or from the psychological?
Self-defense side, or I imagine one has to be done before you can take over the fighting part.
Yeah, so I haven't found anything that teaches you more about managing fear than practicing violence, because it's just so, like we can go, okay, ice bath over here, shoot a gun over here, get in the ring over here. And I can be scared about all of them, but there's only one where someone's going to punch me in the face.
Right.
So in terms of like accelerating the understanding of what it is to manage fear, but this is a big connection. I said it earlier, you can't be brave if you're not afraid. Just because you understand fear management doesn't mean that you don't have fear when you're doing it. That's the biggest lesson. That's the hardest. That's the thing that we don't teach people in school. So, we finished the speech and we're going, I don't remember what I said. I was so nervous up there. Oh, it was great. You were great. I didn't remember like throwing the rock there. I was fucking freaking out. I didn't even hear you.
Sure, right. Yeah.
Right. Well, dude, you won. Holy fuck. Okay, great.
All right. Autopilot. Thanks.
Yeah. So what's interesting is the most fun realization that I help inspire or invoke is telling people this idea of there are things in life that you need to do afraid. And if they happen to be part of your lifestyle or your job, like if you kept swimming in open water, you would eventually one day walk down to the beach and, like the Belgium skydiver, you go, I'm not going to swim today. And then find out.
Since you brought that up, just as a quick interjection, that's something I recognized really early on. In the first place I saw it was with like higher level BMX riders or skateboarders.
Yeah.
And it was what they get really good at is falling. Like that's the biggest thing they have to learn is you have to fall in a way to be able to try again. And then they get so good at falling because they hear it, you feel it's going shit earlier. So you can jump out and bail instead of ride it into the ground with, I don't know how this is going to go.
Right.
But you're still falling. You're still risking taking damage. At some point, the intuition gets good enough on falling that you can feel it in the run up of like, it wasn't right.
Yeah. And I would use this example. It's funny you bring that up. Every moderate to serious athlete has run down a hill, gotten too fast and tripped, right?
Oh yeah.
But just before you fell, you actually said to yourself silently, oh fuck, I think I'm running too fast.
Oh fuck. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I've definitely been in that moment.
Right. So that could be on a bike. That could be on a mountain bike. It could be in a car. But right before we lost control, we always said, oh fuck. That's the intuition. So if you can improve your perception speed, you can enhance your reaction time. And now you bail. You go, wow, if I hold on here, I'm definitely breaking my neck.
Yep.
I need to get away from this motorcycle or this bike or that rock or that tree. So that's an interesting thing. Like, so that's the three eyes again there. You're blending your instinct, intuition, intelligence. But you asked me kind of a challenging question to answer.
And I guess I've seen, I haven't had the chance to experience one of your courses, and it's for sure on my list. I realized doing some boxing training and other things I've done that I have no business defending myself in a real situation. I'm fucking so aware of it. Despite being a very gifted athlete and strong and active and moving, I know that I'm not prepared.
Right.
And that's something that there's a competency level that I can choose to learn, and it seems weird to avoid it.
Right.
And so I'm, haven't made it enough of a priority, but it is one of those things that I'm interested in. And I know with your class, it is a hands-on, you're in it.
Yeah. Depends which class. Some of them are pretty intense. But we scale it, so there's but you're right. There's you can learn to defend yourself way faster than you imagine if you're using the body naturally. if you're blending instincts and intelligence and primal gross motor movement, you'd be an animal, because a lot of it is just this quarter extremity, you know, like everything that makes you strong would make you a very, very competent and formidable in our system. A lot of the other stuff, there's too much fine motor skill and complex motor skill to finesse a kick or a strike or a lock or a choke or whatever. You really got to learn.
Well, I imagine the Hollywood fight is very different than real violence.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as much fun as John Wick fights are.
As much fun as John Wick fights are.
Yeah, but and I dig them, and I know some of the stunt crew that does that.
Look, I like watching choreographed dancing as much as the next man, but pretending that is a violent encounter is not the same.
Right. Exactly. So the neat thing about when I'm really teaching people about managing fear, what I'm teaching them is managing awareness of fear. So, like, until you get to the point where you go and you say, hey, I'm much leaner, I'm not getting sick, I'm recovering faster, I'm blah, blah, blah. And all of these changes in my psychology and my body composition are a result of me doing a cold plunge for 4 minutes every day. Now you go, okay, here we go. When you fucking jump in, where when you started a year ago, you're maybe kamikaze going in there, or it took you 15 minutes to get in, right? You dip your hands, dip your feet, come out, go, fuck, that's cold. Okay, good. Nobody's watching. I'm not filming this one. That's for sure. So when the timeline is controllable and you could repeat it, you could stress inoculate, right? So the problem with so what I do, so what's really different with our approach to managing fear is we're teaching a cerebral formula that you apply for any fear. I'm worried about my health, my finances. My friend said this, there's violence. I'm worried about the administration in DC, the next pandemic. And what happens is something comes in and you go, I have a choice now to think more about this. That's what I mean by the unchecked, right? Like, so like yesterday I saw a thing, a little quote where Biden goes, yeah, we need more money, not just for vaccines, it's for the next pandemic. He doesn't even say
when,
just
or maybe
he doesn't say just in case there's a pandemic. He just says for the next pandemic.
We're in a very, very strange time.
Right. But I look at that and I could, like half the world, go, oh my God, there's going to be another pandemic. Or I go, yeah, they're going to fucking do something again. Okay. What am I going to do now? What am I going to do with this information now? Am I going to let it ruin my night? Am I going to, I used to make the joke in the first year, people would interview me and I go, well, I wish I prepared for the pandemic before the pandemic. So if we understand what the stimulus is going to be, we can prepare our body and our mind in advance. So the way we teach people is there's no, unless someone can say to me, I've got to do this every day and I'm fucking nervous right now, then I can help them shape a ritual or a thinking
around something like that. Like that's pretty more clinical anxiety that normal people, people would deal with. That's not really the panic response that comes from
right. But if I say to you tomorrow, what's gonna give you a fear spike, man? Like, unless you have a crystal ball, you're gonna go, hopefully nothing.
Yeah, right.
Unless like you might know, like, yeah, I got a big presentation tomorrow in front of some people, and they're gonna invest in my company if I knock it out of the park.
Sure.
Right. But if you didn't know, like if tomorrow was just another
tomorrow, who knows?
Right. So that's what we teach is like, I'll get a phone call and the stuff that comes across my desk is insane, but like some of the stuff I can't talk about live because of the organizations that I deal with and stuff like that. But, you know, I've got asked to do things for groups where I want the business. I know they need our stuff, but then when doing more research on them, I don't like their politics. It's not this type of fear. I'm not going, oh no, a potential contract. I'm flinching. Like but what's happening is I've got doubt and I've got hesitation in my mind and I'm in a fear loop and I need to take action.
Well, either trusting that or doing what we talked about and going against it. Are we going to trust now at this point in our life that my intuition's been pretty fucking good? Let's listen.
Right.
Yeah. And I think, that's realistic. Also, that's the beauty of running a business that's yours.
Yeah.
I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. And then the other side of the accountability that comes with that is if you decide to make that choice, you don't get to bitch about it.
Right.
And nobody forced this.
Exactly. Yeah, no. So it's interesting. So the system, I feel like I haven't answered your questions.
Tony, I love talking to you. I don't really give much of a shit, man.
Yeah. Because it's like this, one of the things is people want the black and white answer.
And there's not too much of anything.
And there is, that's exactly it. They'll go, hey, how do I overcome my fear of this? And I go, well, cut that out of your life and you won't have that fear anymore. They're like, well, I can't.
So give it a black and white example of like, because I think about that a lot with, so oddly enough, that first time that I was really hanging out with Hepthor in close proximity in a truck, we've hung out a lot, but I don't know why I thought about it at that moment. I realized like, Jesus Christ, I'm half of this human size, that there's nothing I could do. And I'm like, fuck, that's every female that's ever been on a date with me.
Right. And
so, man, there's got to be such a different thing being alive in that machine. I only know what it's like being 240 pounds or bigger.
Right.
My reality is a very different place than a lot of people, including, my girlfriend.
Right.
So, something for her in a defense position, I mean, do you teach people concealed carry is the best plan or just some simple moves of getting out of the situation as fast as possible?
It's funny. Every victim of violence who lived to tell the tale said they had a bad feeling before the attack. That's 100%. So if I were training your girlfriend, not that you present the risk, but she's out and about in the world, is if you know that 100% of the victims of violence who live to tell the tale said they had a bad feeling, then you're like the radar operator who's, watching for missiles going, okay, there's a blip. Is that a plane that hasn't identified itself or is that a missile coming in?
Yeah. The situational awareness is what you're talking about of developing that first, which gives you more time to make decisions.
Right. But here's the interesting thing is conventional situational awareness doesn't include monitoring intuition. Conventional situation is like a periscope, I'm going, nothing over there, nothing, right? So people talk about get left to bang, get off the X. But if I say to you, what does situational awareness mean to you? You go, keep your eyes peeled, look for anomalies, and I go, well, what if the anomaly was, I got a really bad feeling in my stomach about this guy. My second brain is saying there's something wrong here, but how the fuck did he get beside me on this bus or this train or this Uber or this bar? I've been in situations, man, where I'm in a club with some people and I'm there and all of a sudden, like my body energetically changes. I'm scanning and then I'll grab somebody's arm and I'll pull back and then all of a sudden a fucking fist will go and a fight will break out and guys will like, look at me. They go, fuck, God, you're like amazing, Blauer. How did you see that? I go, well, they were screaming at each other. Oh, fuck you up, motherfucker. We just all missed that drunk, right? But my point being is there's rarely, this is a great story. I do seminars all over the world. So I'm talking about the importance of, it's like, hey, so is it concealed carry? Well, is your girlfriend or whoever going to be able to carry a gun everywhere they go? No.
Right.
Are they, can they have it out on an airplane when something
also, are they going to practice shooting?
Are they going to practice?
Right. Are they going to be efficient in whatever the thing is they're going to learn?
And I always tell people, unless the gun is in your hand, when somebody attacks you, what does executive function gets overridden. Executive function is hijacked. Cognitive brain is bypassed. Reactive brain. If I were standing here, if I could jump through like in the Matrix, and I could go, Matt, and I jump right through the fucking camera, you wouldn't go wax on, wax off. You'd go, fuck, what the hell, dude? Like if I was suddenly in your off, right?
Flinch and
so
panic.
It doesn't matter if you're good at it. Yeah. And it doesn't matter that you could pick me up and throw me through the wall. You need to weather the ambush, convert the flinch, recalibrate your brain as quickly as you can and go, what the fuck, right? And get back in the fight. So everyone goes, yeah, that's what I carry. That's what I carry. I go, if I go to shoot you in the face or punch you in the face, how did you get your gun in your hand? If we're within arm's reach,
right?
I go, hey man, got a light? No, I don't smoke, man. Seriously, you don't have a light? Dude, and the guy's on you. Like you didn't go and draw your weapon and shoot him.
Hey, Tony, 1 second.
Yeah. Yep.
My Zoom just got really strange on me. There it is.
I'm fine on my side.
Yeah, I think I'm still good on my. Cool.
Yeah, it still says recording.
Perfect.
But listen, I shoot.
I didn't figure that you're a one is the answer to everything type of guy. I figured you were a proficient in all.
But the biggest thing is if you don't manage the fear, you're not going to manage to fight. You can't be brave if you're not afraid. If you don't understand the relationship between instincts, intuition, and intelligence, you can't choose safety. There's a whole organic, holistic formula that I teach people to manage violence, not just if we're doing business coaching or one-on-one or personal development. What's amazing is that it's all the same. If you look both ways to cross the street, that's self-defense. If you look at the ingredients on something, you go, holy fuck.
Arsenic, not ideal.
Look what's in this. No, thank you. Self-defense. If you brush your teeth every day, twice a day, self-defense, right? So most people practice self-defense, but they leave out actual self-defense. Like, what would I do if somebody tried to harm me or my family or a loved one? But what I teach people, regardless of size, whether because we've got a concealed carry combatives course, we've got a multiple assailant course, we've got all these different programs. Our most important course is our Be Your Own Bodyguard course, a one-day Be Your Own Bodyguard course, because it lays the foundation of what we call the 3Ds: detect, diffuse, defend. Detect and avoid, defuse and de-escalate, and if push comes to shove, how do you defend yourself? And it's not, wax on, wax off, and fine complex motor skill. It's aggressive and violent, and it's big movement. But most people, including myself, a lot of people think because of my background that I'm a violent person. I practice violence because I abhor violence. I freaking abhor it. I get physically sick when I see shit in the news. Sure. I got a lot of people, military law enforcement guys, they'll send me videotapes and things like that. Most of the time, I never even look at it. I don't even want to see it. I don't need to see somebody getting murdered or somebody bleeding out or somebody screaming for their life. It horrifies me, which is why my whole life is dedicated to making good people safer. But because size matters, size can't matter. Your girlfriend's not going to be bigger. You're not going to be smaller. You need to learn how to defend yourself as a 240-pound guy. She needs to learn to defend herself at whatever she is, 130.
Exactly, as the human you are.
Yeah, and that's where we start. And everyone starts the same. Everyone, I go, listen, if you got it. Most important thing is fear management. If you don't manage the fear, you're not going to manage the fight. And then it builds from there. And laying that foundation allows people to openly communicate with self-awareness and transparency for their coach. When my ski coach asked me how I felt before one of the biggest races of my career, I lied to him and said, I feel great, coach. Right? Because I was,
of course I do.
Because I was afraid of fear. like everyone else, and no one had ever created or established like a rule set of like, how do we talk about things that scare us? But it never came up. So even though I wanted to vomit, I was so nervous. And I just lied to him. I go, feel good, coach, man. And I've talked to,
and well, there's so much built in, I think, culturally to the tough guy isn't scared thing.
Yes.
And acknowledging fear and actually not making it the fucking Voldemort unspeakable boogeyman.
Yeah.
I think creates a different power over it, of acknowledging it as an emotion, the same way that like, oh, I'm fucking angry right now.
Right.
Like, it's okay to be angry, but we have to fucking figure out how to deal with it.
And sometimes just emoting it releases some of the pressure. One of my guys, this guy, Dave Boyle, he lives in Ireland. He's a professional stuntman. He's worked on like big, A-list movies and like, Vikings and shows, like jumps off horses, falls off buildings and fires, street fighter, 30-year martial artist. One of the trainers for my company. We have this 2-hour online course called Essentials of Personal Safety. He's going to teach one in European time. I don't know how anyone can understand him because he's from Ireland, but I call up all my trainers, like I told you earlier, and I say to him, I go, hey, Dave, it's your first class doing this. How you feeling? You ready? And he says, I can't do the Irish accent. It's much funnier in the Irish. He says, I'm fucking nervous, coach.
Yeah.
And I go, why are you nervous? Now, remember, my guys understand the system.
Yep.
But if Dave told somebody else, I'm nervous to do a 2-hour Zoom call teaching self-defense on Zoom, people go, Dave, you're a street fighter, you're a black belt, you've been a doorman in pubs in Ireland for 20 years, you're a professional stuntman. What the fuck are you afraid of? But when I asked him, why are you nervous? He said, I just don't want to let you down. I know how important this is. Right. But because he could identify it, he could clear the psychological fear. And now he's just got the adrenaline of let's go.
Yeah. I think that awareness is a really big key. And like, that's one of the things I even talk about people with goal setting is like, whatever the inspiration is that you find that's going to trigger you to, I want to do a thing.
Right.
Like, have the awareness of what it is you're really chasing. Are you chasing, oh, I was inspired to do a podcast. You inspired to do a podcast, or do you want to be a famous podcaster? These are different fucking things.
Right.
One of which is very doable and takes a lot of work. And the other one, it takes some magic that you may not fucking get granted.
Right.
But having that awareness of why is it I really want this? And I think awareness is such a big one too, that in all avenues. And man, I was thinking about that bottling of fear that we do and that emotion. And we, oddly enough, hide it pretty well compared to other emotions. We don't hide sadness super well. We don't hide anger very well. And hell, even trying not to laugh in an inappropriate time, like we fucking, it explodes out of us.
Right.
So letting some of that fear, like, you owning it and using that fire.
That's an interesting observation, man.
One of my favorite quotes about fear was, I think it's Customato, and he's talking about that, both the hero and the coward feel it the same. It's fire,
right?
And both of them can be burned by it. Both of them have the same fear and respect for it, but one of them lets it get out of control and fucking ruins their life. And the other one can warm their food and forge tools and build a society.
Yeah.
It's all your reaction to it. It doesn't have anything to do with the fire itself.
Right. Yeah. And metaphor being for everyone, of course, that fear is the fire.
Right.
It can either burn you or warm you.
Both feel it on the way in, man.
And that's that connection to make fear your fuel. Let it supercharge you. You're afraid because you're about to be attacked. Let fear be your fuel to ignite that indignation to face the danger. You're afraid to quit your shitty job and become an entrepreneur. Let your fear be your fuel. You're afraid to get divorced. Let fear be your fuel. You're afraid to get married. Let fear be your fuel. Right. And
Tim Ferriss talks about the exact same thing in 4 Hour Work Week. Like he talks about, chances are that thing you're really scared of is the thing you need to do to get set free.
Yeah. 100%.
Tony, man, I appreciate all the time you've given us. Where can everyone find more from you, search you out, get coaching?
Yeah. So my main site that has kind of like links to everything we do is blauertrainingsystems.com. I think my team sent you links.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I'll have links and I'll put everything as well.
Yeah. So, I'm, although I'm heavily shadow banned on Instagram, you can try and find me, Tony Blauer.
I try to say that. I just don't think anyone's interested in my shit.
Yeah. It's so retarded. But I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm in Twitter. I'm I don't outsource any of my comments or anything like if you send me a message, I will answer you at some point, in a very timely way. But if you go to blauertrainingsystems.com, if you're listening to this and you're law enforcement or security or whatever, you'll see, oh, that's the Spear system. If you're interested in some of the coaching or the fear management, there's stuff there. There'd be a Coach Blauer section and a No Fear Now section, and that you can go check all this stuff out. But we do have a pretty cool PDF called Making Friends with Fear, that it's only 9 pages, but it took me 40 years to write.
Jesus,
that's incredible. And I say that because, it's obviously like a funnel trying to inspire what a great salesman I am, right? It's obviously a fucking funnel, but listen, I really believe that if you can change your relationship with fear, you change your mind, you change your life, and fear throttles everything we do, from who we talk to, therefore who are our friends and who do we marry. Because if you have trouble talking, you're not going to get close to the people you're going to get close to. But fear also throttles how much weight we're going to lift. You look at something, you go, I don't know, I can't do that. I've
had that feeling going up for lifts, of course, like, oof, I don't know that I got this one.
Right.
And I can't think of a lot of those lifts I made.
Right.
I never was like, holy shit.
Yeah. And it's interesting. So that had we been training together before that, you'd have stopped and went, yeah, false expectations appearing real. I'm not going to step up the bat when I just said to myself, I hope I don't strike out. Right. And
I've already turned part of me off.
Right. Well, we need this mind-body connection. And if your mind is somewhere else, you can't ever hit the proverbial flow state. So it's interesting because I got a clip that we show of George St. Pierre. George's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So St. Pierre, one of the good guys who openly articulates, well, he's afraid before every fight. He says, the worst day of my life is the day I got to fight. He says, I'm so afraid of fighting, but you would never know it as he's doing the Superman punch across the octagon, dropping you. He said, I'm afraid before every fight. He says, there was only one fight that I wasn't afraid of. I wasn't afraid to fight Matt Serra. And he knocked me out. He said, maybe I should have been afraid.
There's something about a little bit too confident. And that's a really easy spot to find when you're toward the top.
Yeah.
Like, I fucking got this. And there's a difference between real confidence in your ability to perform when you know it fucking counts and hubris.
Yeah, 100%. It's subtle because nobody likes the feeling of fear, the chemical of that. Oh, like I've had that before. I'm about to, let's say, go on stage for like a really big event, and I call my wife and I go, fuck, I hate this moment.
Yeah.
And she goes, you're gonna be fine, it's gonna be great. I said, I know, I don't like the physiology, but I know what it's about. So I just go. And it's funny, there have been a couple of talks that I've done where I did what you said, where I just told the group, I said, guys, you're all here for this fear management talk, right? They're like, yeah. I go, so let me tell you how fucking scared I am right now.
Right.
They didn't tell me there would be 500 people here. I thought there'd be 50 people here. And, I could beat up 50 of you, but I can't beat up 500 of you. And everyone starts to laugh. And then next thing you know, the speech is over.
Right.
Because you're just honest.
Yeah, there's something
like that.
Look, people sniff it out too. People definitely sniff out that other side of it. For me, man, that feeling for me of being in a competition when it mattered. This is the last throw, and I know this one's the fucking difference.
Right.
Like, I loved it. Like, that was the good stuff, because I was always ready. I was always very excited to see how I stack up then. And you have to get to there to find out.
Yeah.
And, that feeling, I realized, since I can't compete anymore, I get that feeling pre-podcast. I get that feeling pre-going to talk. It's in a totally different side of my brain, but it's still that same feeling of like, yo, are you going to get the fucking job done? Yeah. Like, now's the time to actually do the thing that you do.
That's great.
And it's been a really fun feeling to play with and get better at and look at with excitement of like, holy shit, there it is. That means this counts. That means like I'm fucking in the game.
Yeah. I love that, man. I hope that message, I wish that message could get like sprayed across the universe, because that's
we've just taught people to avoid that uncomfortable feeling so much.
But whatever you're doing, lean into it. I remember getting out of an airplane and hopping in a cab, and I was tired, and this cab driver wouldn't shut up. And he's yakking, he's talking. And it wasn't that he was stupid. He was just, yeah, this is here, and this is famous over here. And it was like a tour guide.
Yeah, I just didn't ask for a tour guide. I'd rather quiet.
But here's the thing. And he had like, his cab was decorated. It had fucking beads and stones and all over. And I'm like getting weirded out and everything. And then all of a sudden it occurred to me that this was the best cab driver in the world. That this guy realized, I'm a cab driver. Yeah. I'm gonna fix up my cab on the inside so that it doesn't look like every shitty hotel room or every shitty cab. And I'm gonna have something to say, unless the person tells me to. I never told him to stop talking.
Exactly.
But it was halfway through, I realized this guy has completely committed to this job.
Well, I mean, are you familiar with Don Miguel Ruiz and like the Four Agreements?
I know of the book, and I think I read it or listened to it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, essentially the Four Agreements are, don't take anything personal, be impeccable with your word, don't make assumptions, and always try your best.
I've got two of those down.
Sure. Right. And like, it would be easy when we're in that kind of shattered state, right? That post-travel, that traveling, that getting in a cab, that I just want to be in the fucking hotel room alone. Why doesn't this person know that?
Right.
And you take it personally. But instead, in your situation, right, you didn't let that come out and got a chance to reframe and look at this cab and realize that this is a guy who's a cab driver and doing it the best he can and isn't bummed about his situation.
Right.
Like, why would yours get to fucking influence a negative thing on his? Yeah. And so, yeah, I that awareness too of like, reframe this thing. I think there's a lot that you can do just with your own perception of situations to be able to change your reality. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what when you talked about, hey man, I don't compete anymore, but I'm going to, I'm going to crush this podcast. I'm going to crush this interview. I'm going to crush this meeting. If you ask anyone on my training team, of all the because they travel around the world, they do seminars, all different co-groups. You ask any of my team, what was of recent memory, what was their best seminar? Every single one of them will look at you and go, my next one.
Yeah.
They're just
You're getting better.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's it. Like, everyone's in the process. And that was something I worked really hard with my media guy, young guy, Brant, super ambitious, talented kid. And he came in very wanting to be perfect. And I tried to explain to him, I was like, we got to fuck all that. Because we're going to be better at video 100 than we are at video 1, no matter how long video 1 takes to get done.
Right.
So let's start getting reps and take the data of like, yeah, we could have done that better, but we fix it on the next video. And always make the improvements that way. The same way doing the reps in the gym, the same way exposing yourself to other things, the same way fucking getting better at anything works.
Yep.
You have to have an awareness first that there's place to get better.
Yeah. Self-awareness, dude. It's the key to everything. It's our superpowers.
Tony, man, I appreciate everything.
Dude, it was so good. Good
pleasure catching up. I'm sure we'll catch up in real life soon.
I hope so. I'll see you soon.
Tony, have a good one. Later, brother.